Bum on the Park Bench is a fake. At the time of this home movie, rarely seen since it was shot, he's one of the most famous men in America. His tireless search for knowledge, evident since childhood, has already shown itself in his outstanding musical ability and the start of a literary career. Already he's a clarinet virtuoso, leader of a celebrated swing band, soon to be married to a succession of movie stars, and with a lifetime of intellectual enthusiasms yet to awaken, all in a quest for perfection that'll carry him into the next millennium. He's Artie Shaw.
Yeah, he was incredible looking in those days. He was tall, he was lean, he had all that dark hair, and I mean, the clarinet itself is a kind of phallus, and it was the instrument of the 1930s.
Wait a minute, man. We took a poll on the campus, and almost everybody voted for Artie Shaw's band.
Artie Shaw? Who's Artie Shaw?
So far ahead of everybody else in the band playing-wise that you just know, where did that come from? And the older you get, the more you realize how great he was at that time.
I don't know if he ever made a bad record. I know he never played a bad note.
He had phenomenal control of the upper register of the clarinet, maybe an octave above where most people would play it. And it wasn't just for effect. You know, he really had great control of the instrument.
Fire!
Everyone agrees that Artie Shaw was a master musician, one of the rare perfectionists who got somewhere near that goal. But then, in his mid-40s, he suddenly put the clarinet away, for good. Why?
I was out there, you know, out in front of the public, and you cannot live your own life. You're influenced by all of this adulation, and you come to expect it. And when that happens, you begin to go crazy. I found myself going crazy. I realized that if I stayed in it much longer, I'd be insufferable. As it was, I was barely sufferable.
When were you at your craziest, do you think?
At the peak of my career. I would say, I want that. And somebody in the band, or some band manager would say, Artie, you know what it's going to cost you? I'd fire him. I was a tyrant.
Who was this tyrant, this despotic leader? It was hard to connect him anymore with this child in the cleft of a tree, Arthur Arshawski, born on the Lower East Side of Manhattan on the 23rd of May, 1910. An omnivorous reader first, and then a musician whose attitude to the work that would make him famous was formed early.
I think I had a certain contempt for it, which was born of my father, who was not a nice man. But when he'd see me practicing, he would refer to the instrument as a bluzzer, which is a Yiddish contemptuous term for something you blow into. And I think some of that clung. So whenever I was playing, I should do the opposite of jumping up and down. I would stand quietly and lead the band. And people didn't expect that. They would say, smile. I'd say something funny. And they'd look at you. Blankly did. We have this thing about smile, the happy face. So I wasn't made for that kind of life. Or at least I didn't grow up for that kind of life.
The family moved to New Haven, where the high school motto translates simply as, "What you do, do well," an urge to excellence that Artie always took seriously. At Poley's Theatre one day, he heard a saxophonist in a striped blazer play Dreamy Melody, the hit of 1922, which drew him into the study of music. A failed audition only encouraged him.
He stuck a piece of music in front of me, and I said, "What do you want me to do?" He said, "Play that." I said, "I can't do that." He said, "You can't read a stock arrangement?" I said, "No, I can't read music." So he said, "Well, you can't have the job." I said, "Will you hold it for a month?" He said, "A month?" I said, "Yeah, I'll be back in a month." So in a month, I was reading.
Now, at 16, he set out to find what great music sounded like, making a pilgrimage by road to see Louis Armstrong play.
I went to Chicago because I heard he was playing at the Savoy Ballroom. And the first thing I ever heard him do, I was sitting on the edge of the bandstand. There was a low carpeted bandstand. And I sat there and waited for him to come on. He was my God. He was idol. And he came out and he picked up the horn and he went, what is that? That was this cadenza opening on West End Blues, which is still, has become since a great classic. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. I can play it note for note to this day.
Back home in Cincinnati, he rose through the local bands, Joe Cantor's, Austin Wiley's, playing saxophone and writing.
People forget how young he was when he started. I mean, he was playing professionally at, 16 or 17. He was in Cincinnati. He was working for a band there, and apparently he must have been doing a lot of the writing because he became known as a music director.
Then something happened that hardly any other musician of his time had to contend with. A literary ambition kicked in. Artie won an essay writing competition. The prize, a flight to California. But the upshot was musical. Out west, he joined a prominent band, Irving Aronson's Commanders, and returned with them to New York. But he made a terrible start to life in the big city.
It was pretty bad. I was driving up Broadway, and a guy stepped off the intersection. The middle of Broadway was in those days, whether it is now, and there was sort of park thing up the middle, and then there's the other side going the other way. And I was going my way about maybe 30 miles an hour, maybe speed limit, not much more. And I had a green light, and I went. And this guy stepped right out in front of me and was killed. And that was my first brush with the law, big one. The people, what is it? People of the state of New York versus Artie Shaw. I thought that's pretty tough odds.